My childhood sweetheart, Suwan, glared at me with a look of pure resentment, her hands clutching the corner of the blanket tightly against her chest. The next second, her small, white-knuckled fists slammed hard into my face. Hidden beneath that contract is 10 years of devotion, He Chiang. I thought of you as my best bro, and you actually want me to bear your child? Her shriek tore through the air, laced with humiliation and fury. Her fists fell with a desperate, reckless force. I was knocked to the side, a metallic tang instantly flooding my mouth. A burning sensation spread along my nerves, yet the corners of my mouth twitched upward uncontrollably, a twisted sort of satisfaction. I laughed. This farce began 3 hours earlier at a cafe. Suwan sat across from me, her spine ramrod straight, her head bowed almost to her chest. Her fingers twisted the hem of her faded white t-shirt, leaving deep creases. He Chiang, can you lend me $1 million? Her voice was faint, like a candle flickering in the wind. My dad's company went bankrupt, and he can't pay back the loan sharks, those people. She trailed off, her shoulders shaking violently, like reeds whipped by a gale, fragile on the verge of snapping. I looked at her, my heart clenched in an invisible vice, aching until I could barely breathe. This girl, who had charged through life like a little son since we were kids, never bowing to anyone, had finally shed all her armor before me, revealing this broken, vulnerable state. The dark circles under her eyes were smudged like ink. The spark that once lit up her gaze like starlight was now dulled by a heavy layer of ash, fading into nothingness, like a night sky completely swallowed by dark clouds. The soft piano music drifting through the cafe only made our table feel more suffocating, the air pressing down heavily on my heart. Heartache flooded me like a tide. I could barely suppress the urge to slap my bank card on the table and tell her, forget $1 million, I could give you 10 million right now, but I couldn't. I knew Suwan too well. Her pride was higher than mountains, heavier than life itself. If I gave her the money too easily now, it wouldn't be a lifeline. It would become the straw that broke her. It would stand between us forever, an insurmountable chasm. She would spend the rest of her life shackled by what she owed me, avoiding me desperately, and our decade-long friendship would turn to dust. I had waited 10 years for her, from an awkward, ignorant boy to a man capable of standing on his own. That wasn't the ending I wanted. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, deliberately suppressing the ache in my eyes. My tone was casual, laced with deliberate flippancy. $1 million? Someone, do you think I run a bank? That's not pocket change. Why should I lend it to you? She jerked her head up, the last glimmer of hope in her eyes instantly extinguished. Her lips trembled, her voice choked with unshed tears. I know, but I really have nowhere else to turn. I'll write you an IOU. I swear I'll pay you back slowly. How? I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms over my chest, looking at her with feigned leisure. You quit your job, no income, no savings. You expect me to wait 10 or 20 years for empty promises? My words were like icicles, stabbing into her heart one by one. Her face drained of color, turning deathly pale, her lips even tinged with blue. She froze, her throat seeming to close up, unable to utter a single word. Her hands twisted the hem of her shirt, knuckles white, as if she might tear the fabric apart. Fuck. I cursed myself internally. Was that too harsh? Looking at the despair flooding her eyes, I wanted to slap myself twice. But no, He Chiang. Hold on a little longer. This was the only legitimate way to keep her by my side, to help her without losing her. I couldn't let it fall apart now. Taking a deep breath, I suppressed the turmoil inside me. Leaning forward slightly, I locked my gaze onto hers, enunciating each word clearly and firmly, voicing the proposal I had agonized over all night, the crazy, absurd proposition. There is another way. Her eyes ignited with a tiny spark, like a drowning person grasping at the last piece of driftwood. She leaned forward urgently, her voice trembling imperceptibly. What way? As long as it saves my dad, I'll do anything. Give me a child. I paused, watching her expression shift from shock to disbelief, then continued. Once the child is born, your father's debt of $1 million is wiped clean. Additionally, I'll give you another $1 million for your recovery and compensation. Time seemed to freeze. The music in the cafe, the chatter from neighboring tables, it all receded like a tide. In my world, there was only her. Her eyes were a storm of emotions. Shock, bewilderment, disbelief, finally drowned by overwhelming humiliation and fury, extinguishing even that tiny spark. And then came the scene at the beginning. The force of her punch was startling. Other customers turned to stare, whispering. I was knocked sideways, the metallic taste in my mouth growing stronger, the burn on my cheek intensifying. Yet I laughed even harder, because I knew, at that moment, in Suwan's world, I, He Chiang, was no longer just her best bro. I had finally shattered the barrier between us built over 10 years, even if it was through such a ridiculous method. After hitting me, Suwan bolted like a startled rabbit, forgetting even her bag in her panic, stumbling out of the cafe. I stayed seated, using my tongue to probe the cut inside my cheek, sucking in a sharp breath. She really didn't hold back. But I wasn't angry. I felt lucky. Her running meant she was shaken, meant my proposal wasn't entirely impossible. I paid the bill leisurely, picked up her abandoned bag, and drove home. As soon as I walked through the door, my phone rang. It was my assistant, Mr. He. The debt collectors harassing Miss Sue's father have been dealt with as per your instructions. However, they will likely locate Miss Sue herself very soon. Should I arrange security in advance? I know. Leave it. I hung up, rummaged through the medicine cabinet for iodine and cotton swabs, and examined my face in the mirror. The man staring back had a swollen left cheek, dried blood at the corner of his mouth, a ridiculous ridiculous, somewhat pathetic sight. But this was exactly what I wanted. The more guilty she felt, the more secure my scheme became. I waited 2 hours, estimating Suwon had calmed down somewhat and been thoroughly doused by the cold water of reality. Then, I called her. The phone rang and rang. Just when I thought she wouldn't answer, she picked up. Silence on the other end. Only the sound of her suppressed breathing, thick with congestion, reached my ears. I didn't need to see her to know she had been crying again. Clearing my throat, I deliberately lowered my voice, feigning weakness and grievance, lacing my tone with a touch of playful whining. Suwon, you're in big trouble. You loosened my tooth, disfigured my face, and now I can't attend a multi-million-dollar meeting tomorrow. You owe me lost wages. Most importantly, my delicate heart is shattered. How dare you hit your handsome, rich, gentle, and thoughtful best bro over a mere million? Finally, a sound came from the other end, a soft, breathy filled with scorn, yet hiding a trace of thawing resistance. I couldn't help but laugh, softening my tone while maintaining an undeniable edge. Open the door. What? Her voice was wary, clearly not expecting me to be at her doorstep. I'm outside your apartment. You have 3 minutes. If you don't open up, I'll scream for help and let the whole building know. Suwon is abusing her best friend. The line went dead with a sharp click. I shook my head, smiling. Still so stubborn, yet so soft-hearted. Less than a minute later, the door was yanked open. Suwon stood there, her eyes still red and puffy like a wronged walnut. She wore an oversized t-shirt that hung loosely on her thin frame. Her hair was a mess, sticking to her cheeks, tear tracks still visible. Her eyes were full of vigilance, her tone hostile. What are you doing here? I don't want to see you. I squeezed past her into the apartment, hissing as I touched my swollen cheek, collapsing dramatically onto her tiny sofa, groaning. Coming to get you to take responsibility. Did you think you could just hit someone and run? No way. My head hurts so bad, maybe I have a concussion. Seeing my injury, her eyes flickered, but she kept up her tough front. Serves you right. Who told you to talk nonsense? But the conviction in her voice wavered, replaced by unmistakable guilt and unease. This girl had never been able to lie. Every emotion showed on her face. I stayed sprawled on the sofa, continuing my act, furrowing my brow in exaggerated pain. Ouch, it's getting worse. I knew I shouldn't have suggested that solution. Now, not only did you not get the money, but you also disfigured me. What a loss. Sure enough, Suwon took the bait. She walked over nervously, reaching out as if to touch my face, then snatching her hand back. Her voice was flustered. Stop faking it. I didn't hit you that hard. How could you get a concussion? Not that hard? I sat up abruptly, pointing at my swollen cheek, raising my voice. Look at this. It's practically the size of a balloon. Suwon, do you have some kind of misunderstanding about your own strength? One more ounce of force and you would have broken my jaw. Startled by my shout, she froze, staring at the bruise on my face. The guilt in her eyes deepened. Her lips moved as if wanting to say something, but she remained silent, lowering her gaze to twist the hem of her shirt. Just then, her phone started vibrating wildly. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Suwon's face instantly paled. Her body stiffened. She tried to press decline, but her hand shook so badly she couldn't hit the right spot. The relentless ringing pierced the brief silence like a death knell, making her heart race. I reached out, covering her ice-cold hand with mine, my fingertips offering a calming warmth. I pressed the answer button and put it on speaker. A crude, vulgar male voice came through, dripping with threats. Miss Sue, right? If your old man doesn't pay up today, we'll have to go visit him at the hospital. Oh, and I heard Miss Sue is quite a looker. If you can't scrape together the cash, you can always pay with your body. We brothers aren't picky. You bastards! Suwon's voice trembled, tears springing to her eyes. She bit her lip hard to keep from crying out, her eyes blazing with fury and terror. Bastards? The man sneered. Debt must be repaid. You have 1 hour, 1 million, or face the consequences. The line went dead, plunging the room back into a suffocating silence. Suwon trembled all over. Tears spilled down her cheeks like broken beads soaking into her clothes. She sank slowly to the floor, hugging her knees, her shoulders shaking violently as she sobbed silently, all strength and hope seemingly drained from her like a withered leaf. I watched her quietly, saying nothing, waiting in my heart for her tears to subside, for reality to crush her completely, for her to have no other choice. It wasn't until her sobs quieted that I slowly stood up. Walking over to her, I looked down, my voice low but carrying an undeniable weight, sinking clearly into her ears. My offer still stands. She jerked her head up. Her red-rimmed eyes were a battlefield of struggle, unwillingness, humiliation, despair, and a sliver of swaying resolve, like a leaf tossed in a gale, uncertain where to land. Suwon, you have no other choice. I reached out, brushing away the tears on her cheek with my thumb. My touch was impossibly gentle, a stark contrast to the man who had proposed the absurd contract. And it's not a loss with me, is it? In the end, Suwon nodded. Tears welled up again. Between her dignity and her father's safety, she had no choice but to lower her head, to accept this ridiculous deal. We sat in her tiny living room, drafting what was perhaps history's most absurd contract on a single sheet of A4 paper. No lawyers, no notary. Just two people with hidden agendas, writing down their transactions stroke by stroke. Party A, Hee Chung. Party B, Suwon 1. Party B requires urgent funds totaling RMB 1,000 due to family circumstances. Through friendly negotiation, Party A and Party B agree to the following terms. Party B shall bear a healthy child for Party A too. Upon the birth of the child, Party A shall pay Party B RMB 1,000 as compensation, plus an additional RMB 1,000,000 for Party B's physical recuperation and emotional distress 3. During the term of cooperation, for the effective execution of this agreement, Party B shall move into Party A's residence and cohabitate with Party A4. During the term of cooperation, both parties maintain a purely cooperative relationship. No emotional entanglements beyond the scope of this cooperation shall arise. 5. Custody of the child shall belong to Party A. Party B retains visitation rights. As I read each clause, Suwon gritted her teeth and added emphasis. Especially when I read the fourth clause, she enunciated each word clearly, her eyes boring into mine as if taking an unbreakable vow. Read it clearly, Hee-chiang. No emotional entanglements whatsoever. I nodded solemnly. Of course, I, Hee-chiang, have always separated business from personal matters. I honor contracts. But inside I was laughing bitterly. Bullshit. I schemed and plotted, used every trick to keep you here, precisely to create emotional entanglements. To tell you openly, I love you. I have loved you for 10 whole years. She gave me a suspicious look, clearly not believing me, her eyes full of guardedness. But she picked up the pen and signed her name at the bottom of the contract. As she finished the last stroke, I saw a teardrop onto the paper, blooming into a small ink blot, like a shattered star. My heart clenched fiercely. Wanwan, I'm sorry. Just wait a little longer. Soon I'll turn this absurd contract into a joke, one where I can love you openly, without you suffering a single grievance. That afternoon, I transferred 1 million to the debt collectors, resolving Suwon's father's crisis and cutting off her last escape route. Then, like a domineering creditor, I drove to her building to help her move. Move was an overstatement. She didn't have much, just a few changes of clothes, a paint-splattered easel she'd had since she was a kid, and a box of assorted brushes and paints. Her treasures, kept even in the hardest times. I tossed her suitcase into the trunk, opened the passenger door, and said to her as she stood hesitantly at the building entrance, "Get in, Party B." Suwon shot me a venomous glare, unwillingness written all over her face, but she bent down and got into the car. She spent the entire drive staring out the window, silent. The atmosphere was so thick with awkwardness you could wring water from it. My apartment was a top-floor duplex downtown, with stunning views. The decor was minimalist, black, white, and gray, exuding sophistication. Suwon followed me inside, staring at the row of smart home control panels in the entryway, her eyes wide with confusion. She asked softly, "I'm staying here? Where else?" I swapped my shoes, pulled out a brand new pair of fluffy pink bunny slippers from the cabinet, and tossed them at her feet, keeping my tone casual. "Put them on. Don't dirty the floors." She looked down at the soft pink bunny slippers, then at the identical gray dinosaur slippers on my feet. Her cheeks flushed slightly, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She asked in a small voice, "Don't you have any other slippers?" "Nope. Make do." I lied smoothly. There were plenty of spare slippers in the cabinet. But these pink bunnies, I had specifically picked them out at the supermarket last week. They were soft, reminded me of how she used to be, and I knew they would suit her perfectly. I led her on a tour of the place. "This is the living room. You can hang out here. Kitchen's over there, fully stocked. Cook if you want. My study is here. Important documents inside. No entering without permission." I stopped at a guest bedroom next to the master suite, my tone flat. "This is your room. Everything you need is inside." She hesitated, then pushed the door open. For a second, she just stood there, frozen. Her guardedness and resentment vanished, replaced by sheer astonishment and bewilderment, her breath catching. The room was spacious, simply decorated yet warm. It had its own bathroom and walk-in closet. By the French window stood a brand new easel, surrounded by a complete set of top-tier art supplies, even matching the exact brands and colors she used. The bedding was her favorite brand since childhood, soft and familiar. The closet held several new outfits from brands she often wore, in her precise size. Everything was exquisite, meticulously prepared, not at all temporary. She turned slowly, looking at me. Her eyes were complex. Her lips moved. Her voice trembled slightly. "Hee-chiang, don't overthink it." I quickly cut her off, deliberately masking the tenderness in my eyes, replacing it with icy detachment, speaking in business-like tones. "A workman must sharpen his tools to do his job well. I need to ensure my partner is comfortable and happy to efficiently produce the product, right?" I used those cold words to hide my ulterior motives. I was afraid she would sense my feelings, raise her walls again, and this hard-won chance would slip away. Sure enough, the fleeting softness in her eyes vanished, replaced by a flash of anger. She gritted her teeth. "Understood, Mr. He." That evening, I tied on an apron and walked into the kitchen. I made 4 dishes and a soup: sweet and sour spare ribs, cola chicken wings, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, garlic broccoli, all her favorites since she was little. When I brought the food to the table, Suwon looked at it, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but she said nothing. We sat at opposite ends of the massive dining table, eating in silence, the only sound the clink of chopsticks and bowls, not awkward, but carefully distant. That Suwon broke the silence first, putting down her chopsticks. Her fingers twisted the hem of her shirt, her face suspiciously flushed. "When do we start?" Cough, cough, cough. I sprayed my soup, coughing violently, my face turning red, my ears burning. Holy shit, what was going on in this woman's head? So direct? I wasn't ready. I thought I'd have to build up to it gradually. Startled by my reaction, she hurriedly handed me tissues, her eyes panicked, her blush deepening. "Why are you so shocked? It's in the contract. For executing the agreement, there has to be a timeline, right?" I finally caught my breath. Looking at her forced composure and shifting eyes, I suddenly felt like teasing her. I wiped my mouth, set down my chopsticks slowly, leaned forward slightly, lowered my voice, and said in a tone laced with ambiguity, "Anytime, Party B. Are you free tonight?" Suwon's face turned tomato red, crimson spreading down her neck. She gripped her chopsticks tightly, her eyes darting everywhere, the ceiling, the table, anywhere but me. She stammered, "I'm a bit tired today, and things like this require building up the mood, right?" "Building up the mood?" I raised an eyebrow, dropping the ambiguity and switching to a cold tone. We're in a business partnership, Miss Su. Not dating. We value efficiency, not mood. Inside, I was chuckling. Hee-chang, act more like a jerk. Let's see what you do. She was rendered speechless, her lips moving wordlessly. Finally, she lowered her head and shoveled rice into her mouth frantically, as if the bowl contained some rare delicacy, hiding her embarrassment. Watching her bright red earlobes, I couldn't suppress my grin any longer. It threatened to spill over. After dinner, I cleared the table. Like a startled rabbit, she whooshed into her room and clicked the lock shut. Listening to the crisp click, I leaned against the kitchen doorway, laughing until my shoulders shook. She guarded against me like a thief, as if she could escape if I really wanted her. After my shower, I leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room in my robe, a glass of red wine in hand. The city lights outside were dazzling, neon flickering, but my mind was filled entirely with Suwon. I couldn't shake her image. We had known each other for over 20 years. Since we were toddlers running around in diapers, I had been her shadow. She climbed trees to steal bird eggs. I kept watch below, taking the blame if adults caught us. She got into fights. I handed her bricks and dragged her away afterward. She had her heart broken. I passed her tissues and bought her milk tea, then cornered the guy who dared dump her and gave him a beating. Everyone thought we were just bros. She thought so too. Only I knew that my feelings had changed 10 years ago. I loved her so carefully, so afraid to speak, terrified that one confession would shatter our balance, leaving us with nothing, not even friends. So I had to use this despicable, absurd method to tie her to my side forcefully. Suwon, you idiot. When will you realize I've never wanted a child? I've only ever wanted you. The next morning, I was woken by a series of clattering noises. I stumbled out of my room, hair a mess, to find Suwon wearing one of my oversized t-shirts, her bare legs flashing white, flailing around in the kitchen. She seemed to be attempting to fry an egg, but had splattered yolk all over the stove. She tried to heat milk, pressed the wrong button, and sparks flew inside the microwave. The whole kitchen looked like it had been ransacked, a total disaster zone. Hearing me, she turned, saw me, and her face flooded with embarrassment. She held up a charred black spatula. Morning. I looked at the t-shirt, which was practically a dress on her, the hem barely covering her thighs, her fair skin dazzling me. My Adam's apple bobbed uncontrollably. Look away, Hee-chiang. But my eyes refused to cooperate. You didn't bring pajamas? My voice came out rougher than intended. I did, but they weren't dry last night, she mumbled, tugging self-consciously at the hem, trying to pull it lower, though it did little good. Come here. I beckoned her. She walked over, puzzled, stopping before me, looking up with questioning eyes. I reached out and fastened a button near her collar that she had missed. My fingertips brushed her warm collarbone. Her body went rigid instantly, her breath catching. At this close distance, I could smell the faint scent of her body wash. The same brand I used, but on her it was intoxicating, making my heart itch. Don't wander around the house dressed like this in the future. I retracted my hand, forcing my tone to be stern. It affects me. Affects you how? She asked, genuinely clueless. I gave her a deep look, said nothing, turned to the fridge, pulled out ingredients, and started making breakfast. It affects my ability to control myself. Aloud, I only gave her my back. Affects my work efficiency. Behind me, Suwon stood frozen. After a long pause, I heard her mutter softly, cheapskate. Breakfast was lavish. Fried eggs, toast milk, and her favorite small wontons. Suwon ate with practiced ease, critiquing my cooking as she chewed. Hee-chiang, didn't know you could cook? Even better than my mom's. From now on, you're in charge of all the cooking at our place. Our place. The words slipped out naturally, as if she had said them 1,000 times. We both froze. The 3 words were like a pebble dropped in my heart, creating ripples, warming me strangely, softening my breath. The contract, the cohabitation, the moment her guard dropped. The air filled with a subtle, ambiguous tension. Clearing my throat, I deliberately put on a stern face, breaking the mood. Miss Su, watch your wording. We are partners, not a family. Realization dawned, her cheeks flushed crimson. She lowered her head abruptly, shoveling a spoonful of congee into her mouth. She didn't notice it was still scalding hot. Her throat convulsed. She grabbed her water glass and gulped desperately. Just then, my phone exploded with the caller ID Mom. My scalp prickled. Shit, the family tyrant was calling to nag about marriage again. Bracing myself, I answered, softening my voice. Hey, Mom. Hee-chang, you little punk, you've grown wings. Haven't you? Why didn't you answer my call last night? Mom's voice blasted through the receiver, nearly rupturing my eardrum. Even Suwon looked up instinctively. I went to bed early, I mumbled vaguely, my eyes drifting involuntarily towards Suwon. Went to bed early? Yeah, right. Mom's tone oozed disbelief. Listen here, Aunt Zhang introduced a nice girl. You're going on a blind date tonight. If you dare not show up, I'll break your legs. My head was spinning. I was scrambling for excuses when I caught Suwon propping her ears up, her eyes sparkling with unconcealed gossip, staring right at me. A brilliant, suicidal idea popped into my head. I deliberately raised my voice, speaking clearly into the phone. Mom, don't bother introducing anyone. I have a girlfriend. Silence on the other end for 3 seconds. Then Mom erupted. What? Suwon choked, her spoon clattering into her bowl. She stared at me, wide-eyed with disbelief. I gave her a look, mouthing the words, do me a favor. Before she could object, I continued. Really, she's right here with me. We're already living together. Mom detonated on the other end. Living together? Hee-chiang, you little bastard. Since when? Why didn't I know? Whose daughter is she? Is she pretty? Good character? Don't you dare bring home some floozy? I held the phone away from my ear, looking helpless as Mom fired questions. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Suwon's expression shift from shock to horror. She waved her hands frantically, mouthing, "Have you lost your mind?" I flashed her a reassuring smile. "Mom, talk is cheap. How about I bring her home for dinner tonight? You can see for yourself." "Really?" Mom's tone flipped from fury to ecstasy. "Good, good, good. I'll cook personally tonight. You make sure to bring her. No funny business." The moment I hung up, I was met with Suwon's eyes, practically shooting fire. "Hee-Chiang," she hissed, leaning across the table, her finger jabbing the air. "What the hell are you playing at?" "Helping you," I said innocently, shrugging, adopting a serious, analytical tone. "Think about it. If I go on that blind date and actually like the girl, wouldn't I have to replace the current party A? What happens to our contract then? Who are you going to have a baby with?" She was momentarily stumped by my twisted logic, her brow furrowing. It seemed to make a warped kind of sense to her, yet something felt off. But we can't lie to your mom. It's too ridiculous. "It's a temporary measure," I said, standing up and walking around the table. I placed my hands on the back of her chair, caging her in. Up close, I could see the fine down on her cheeks, smell the faint fragrance of her hair. Her breathing hitched, her chest rising and falling rapidly. My own heart skipped a beat. "Shit, Hee-Chiang, you're playing with fire." At this distance, seeing her blushing face, I could barely control myself. I forced down the surge of emotion, straightened up, and returned to my usual lazy drawl. "Just be yourself." That afternoon, I took Suwon to the most high-end mall downtown. I handed her my black card directly. "Swipe it freely. Pick whatever you like." She pinched the thin black card like it was a hot potato, pushing it back immediately. "No need. I have clothes. You planning to wear those t-shirts and jeans to meet my mother?" I raised an eyebrow, pressing her with officialdom. "Suwon, this isn't just acting. It's part of your duties as Party B. Show some professional spirit." Rendered speechless, she reluctantly let me push her into a haute couture boutique. Hours later, when Suwon walked out of the fitting room in a pale blue dress, I admit I was completely stunned. The design was simple yet elegant, outlining her slender waist perfectly. Her delicate collarbones peeked out. The skirt fell just right, showing off her straight, shapely calves. With light makeup and soft waves in her hair, the boyish, reckless aura she usually carried was diminished, replaced by a gentle beauty that stole my breath. The clerk's gasps, the admiring glances from other shoppers, they all blurred into the background. My world narrowed to only her, radiant and mesmerizing. "Damn it, Hee-Chiang, you're completely, utterly doomed." Feeling my gaze, she grew uncomfortable, tugging self-consciously at the skirt hem. "Does it look weird?" I snapped back to reality, cleared my throat hastily to hide my lapse, and said with feigned nonchalance, "Passable. Not too embarrassing." Then, turning to the clerk, I ordered, "This one," and the other she tried on. "Wrap them all up." Suwon followed behind me, muttering under her breath, "Such a spendthrift." I listened, my lips curving upward secretly. As long as she looked beautiful, spending money was nothing. That evening, laden with shopping bags, we arrived at the He family home. The moment we entered, my mother rushed out like a gust of wind, completely bypassing me to grab Suwon's hand, scrutinizing her from head to toe with the intensity of examining a rare treasure. "Oh, this must be Wanwan. What a wonderful child. So pretty, even prettier than in the photos." Mom was excessively enthusiastic, refusing to let go of Suwon's hand. Suwon was stiff with nervousness, unsure where to put her hands, shouting a greeting in a small voice. "Hello, Auntie. Who are you calling Auntie?" Mom patted her hand, beaming. "Call me Mom from now on." Suwon's face turned the color of boiled lobster. She looked at me helplessly, her eyes pleading for rescue. My father also emerged from the study, adjusting his glasses. Even his usually stern face held a trace of a smile as he nodded at Suwon. "You're here. Come sit." At the dining table, Mom kept heaping food onto Suwon's plate until it resembled a small mountain. "Wanwan, eat more. Look at how thin you are. Hee-Chiang, this brat definitely hasn't been taking good care of you." "Wanwan, when did you and Hee-Chiang meet?" "Wanwan, when are you two planning to get married?" "Let me tell you, having kids young is best, while I'm still young enough to help." I watched Suwon bury her head lower and lower, her ears burning red, looking like she wanted to crawl under the table. I intervened. "Mom, we're eating. Stop interrogating her." "You shut up!" Mom glared at me, her tone brooking no argument. "I'm talking to my daughter-in-law." "What business is it of yours, daughter-in-law?" Those 3 words sent joy soaring through me. I couldn't hide my grin. After dinner, Mom mysteriously pulled Suwon into a corner of the living room, whispering something. When Suwon returned, her face was scarlet, and an extra item adorned her wrist, a translucent green jade bracelet, clearly valuable. "Mom, this is too expensive." "I recognize it. It's the He family heirloom. It must be worth a fortune." "I can't accept it." She hesitated for a long time before speaking, her voice tinged with unease. "What I give to my daughter-in-law is hers." "What's it to you?" Mom said smugly, pressing Suwon's hand to stop her from removing it. "Wanwan, once this bracelet is on, you're part of the He family. No backing out, okay?" Suwon looked at me, her eyes filled with helplessness. I walked over, naturally placing my arm around her shoulders, pulling half of her against me. Facing my mother, I said, "Mom, we know. Stop making things difficult for her. It's getting late. We should head back." I could distinctly feel the body in my arms stiffen, her fingers unconsciously clutching the fabric of my shirt. On the drive back, Suwon remained silent, her gaze fixed on the jade bracelet on her wrist. "This bracelet is too valuable. I can't keep it. I should return it to your mother," she finally said after a long hesitation, her voice timid. "Mom gave it to you. If you return it, she'll be heartbroken," I said flatly, inventing an excuse. "Consider it a prop for our act." You can give it back when our cooperation ends." She fell silent. The atmosphere in the car shifted, the earlier awkwardness gone, replaced by an indescribable sentiment. Back at the apartment, she fled into her room like she was escaping, clicking the lock shut with a sharp snap. Watching her retreating back, I let a triumphant smile curve my lips. "Suwon, you've stepped through the He family door, worn our heirloom. Where do you think you're running to now?" I was about to head for my shower when her door cracked open. A small head peeked out, eyes shifting, cheeks still flushed. "Hee-chiang, I stopped and turned to look at her. "Your mom, she just told me," she stammered, her voice barely audible, her blush deepening. "She told us to hurry up and let her hold her grandchild soon." The air froze solid. I looked at her. She looked up at me. Her wet eyes were filled with panic and helplessness, like a fawn trapped with no escape. And I was the hunter who had laid the snare, greedily eyeing my prey. My Adam's apple bobbed. My voice dropped an octave huskier than usual, laced with a tremor I hadn't intended. "So?" She bit her lip, struggling internally, like she was making a monumental decision. Taking a deep breath, as if resigning herself to fate, she lifted her gaze to mine. Though her voice was soft, it carried a thread of resolve. "The contract says we need to cooperate. Since your mother hopes for it too," another deep breath. "Then, let's try." "Try?" she said. "Try?" Happiness struck too suddenly. I almost couldn't bear it. My heart raced, hammering against my ribs like a drum, my breathing turning ragged. I swear, I had never been this nervous in my life. I walked toward her step by step. She retreated until her back hit the cold wall, trapped. I reached out, planting my hands on either side of her head, caging her between the wall and me. Our noses were almost touching. "Suwon," I said her name, my voice unrecognizably hoarse. "Do you know what try means?" She didn't dare look at me, turning her head aside, her long lashes fluttering like butterfly wings. Her voice was a whisper. "I know, I won't regret it." I pressed, my fingertips tracing her cheek lightly. She was silent for a few seconds. Then she shook her head slightly. Her voice trembled. "I won't regret it." In that instant, the last thread of reason in my brain snapped. I lowered my head and captured her lips with mine. Her lips were softer than I had imagined, carrying a faint sweetness. Her body went rigid instantly, like a stone, forgetting to breathe. I could feel her resistance, her innocence. Shit, am I going too fast? Am I scaring her? I was about to pull back when her hands suddenly clutched the front of my shirt. The grip wasn't strong, but it was there. A hint of dependence. Then clumsily, hesitantly, she responded to my kiss. Like a fledgling bird learning to fly, awkward and endearing. That response was a spark, igniting all my restraint. I deepened the kiss, moving from tentative exploration to an overwhelming surge of possessiveness and longing built over a decade. The temperature in the room skyrocketed, thick with intimacy, every shared breath scorching. Just as I was about to lift her into my arms, a shrill ringtone shattered the moment like a bucket of ice water. Who the fuck is calling now? I wanted to smash that phone to pieces. Suwon also snapped back to reality, shoving me away hard. Her face was crimson, her breathing uneven as she fumbled in her pocket for her phone. "Hello, hello." Her voice was still unnaturally breathless. I don't know what was said on the other end, but her face instantly lost all color. The panic replaced every trace of intimacy. Her voice shook. "What? Okay, I'm coming right now." She hung up, looked at me, her eyes filled with anxiety and helplessness. "Hee-chiang, my dad's been hospitalized." Half an hour later, we were at the hospital. Sue's father had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage from stress and fury over the bankruptcy and debts. Luckily, he had been brought in time and was out of immediate danger, but he needed surgery immediately. Suwon stood outside the operating room, trembling, her face paper white, her eyes hollow, tears frozen. I shrugged off my jacket, draped it over her shoulders, and pulled her firmly into my arms, patting her back rhythmically, my voice low and steady. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Leaning against me, her taut body finally collapsed. She burst into loud sobs, tears soaking my shirt. "Hee-chiang, I'm so scared. If something happens to my dad, what will I do?" "Idiot," I murmured, holding her as her tears flowed freely. "Cry, it'll make you feel better. From now on, if the sky falls, I'll hold it up. You don't need to be afraid of anything." The surgery lasted 3 hours. It was successful. Sue's father was moved to a VIP room. Suwon stayed by his bedside, holding his hand, her eyes swollen shut, refusing to leave his side for a moment. I silently handled all the admission procedures, paying all the fees. When I handed her the receipts, she looked at the long string of numbers, her lips moving, wanting to say something but remaining silent. She just stared at me, her eyes complex and painful. She understood the impact of tonight's events. The crushing debt that had nearly destroyed her was settled with a few pieces of paper in my hands. The vast gap between our worlds unsettled her, bruising her pride. "Hee-chiang," she spoke suddenly, her voice raw. "Is our contract still valid?" I looked at her, clearly seeing the fear lurking deep in her eyes. She was terrified I would terminate the deal because of her father's illness, because of the endless expenses. She thought she had no bargaining chips left. My heart clenched painfully. I walked over to her, lifting my hand to brush away the tear tracks on her cheeks with my thumb. My gaze was firm. "Of course it's valid. Suwon, remember this. From the moment you signed that contract, you became mine. Your problems are my problems. Your family is my family." I paused, looking into her eyes, my tone softening with a trace of helplessness. "So put away that pitiful pride of yours. You don't need it with me, and don't be afraid of troubling me." With that, I turned and walked out of the ward. I was afraid that if I stayed a second longer, I would blurt out everything. Tell her I loved her, had loved her for 10 years. Tell her this absurd contract was just a confession I had schemed for, a way to love her openly. Sue's father stabilized, but the follow-up rehabilitation required a huge sum. These days, Suwon practically lived at the hospital, caring for her father tirelessly, growing visibly thinner. I sent soup over daily via the housekeeper, but she had little appetite, eating only a few bites each time. Today, after finishing work, I went to visit her. Just as I reached the ward door, a man's voice drifted out, gentle and magnetic. Wan, don't exhaust yourself. Take care of your health too. I stopped, peering through the glass window. A young doctor in a white coat stood beside Suwon, looking at her tenderly, handing her a cup of warm milk. Jo Jingran, Suwon senior from university, the one she had secretly liked back then. Damn it, the rival appears. Suwon accepted the milk, smiling at him. Thank you, Senior Jingran. I really appreciate everything you've done this time. Why be so formal with me? Jo Jingran smiled warmly. I'll do my best for Uncle's recovery, don't worry. He reached out, his hand moving as if to ruffle Suwon's hair naturally. My pupils contracted. I couldn't hold back. I pushed the door open and coughed deliberately. Both heads turned. Suwon looked surprised. Heqiang, you're here? Jo Jingran saw me. The tenderness in his eyes vanished, replaced by scrutiny and hostility. I walked over to Suwon, sliding my arm around her waist with natural possessiveness, declaring my territory. Then I looked at Jo Jingran, my lips curving into a polite yet distant smile. And you are? This is my senior, Jo Jingran. He's also my father's attending physician, Suwon introduced. Senior, this is my friend Heqiang. Friend? I raised an eyebrow, tightening my hold on her waist, lowering my head to speak to her in an incredibly doting tone. Wan, we're living together. How can you introduce me as just a friend to outsiders? I'll be heartbroken. The way I said Wan was slow and intimate. Suwon stiffened in my arms, her face exploding with red. She looked up at me, incredulous. Apologies for the lack of notice, I said succinctly, pulling her closer. Wan's fiancé. Suwon pinched me hard in my arms. I didn't flinch, even lowering my head to blow a breath near her ear, whispering where only she could hear. Cooperate party B, or I'll dock your pay. She indeed stopped moving, letting me hold her, her expression a riot of emotions. Jo Jingran's face darkened further. He adjusted his glasses, a flash of unwillingness in his eyes behind the lenses. So you're Wan's boyfriend. Pleasure. I'm Jo Jingran. Wan and I were schoolmates in university. Heqiang. I was concise, my gaze sweeping over him sharply. After he left, Suwon sprang away from me like she'd been electrocuted. Heqiang, what insanity is this now? She hissed, lowering her voice. Insanity, I sneered, stepping closer. Me? Suwon, have you forgotten our contract? You're the mother of my child, and you're flirting with another man right in front of me? I wasn't, she shouted, tears welling up, her eyes reddening. Senior Jingran was just concerned about me. Concerned? I pinched her chin, forcing her to look at me. The way he looks at you, he wants to devour you. That's concern? Suwon, are you blind? She was too angry to speak, tears swimming in her eyes. Seeing her wronged expression, my heart softened a fraction. Maybe I was too harsh, but I couldn't back down. I knew dealing with someone like Jo Jingran, with his gentle facade, required the most direct domineering approach to make him retreat, and to wake up this emotionally dense idiot. Softening my tone, I brushed away the tears at the corners of her eyes with my thumb. Suwon, remember your place. Until I say otherwise, you are my woman. Stay away from him. The confrontation with Jo Jingran stuck like a thorn between Suwon and me. She began avoiding me intentionally. At the hospital, she wouldn't let me touch her. Back at the apartment, she locked herself in her room. Our communication dwindled to the bare minimum. I knew she was angry at my arrogance and unreasonableness. But I didn't regret it. Some things needed a decisive cut. That evening, I got home after working late. The living room light was on. Suwon was sitting on the sofa, apparently waiting for me. She had changed out of her hospital clothes and was wearing the pale blue dress from when we visited my parents. She wore light makeup, her long hair loose. Seeing me return, she stood up, looking nervous. You're back. Yeah. I swapped my shoes, walked over to her. Something wrong? She took a deep breath, as if summoning great courage. We need to talk. We sat on the sofa, a throw pillow between us. Heqiang, she started, her voice soft. I know you spent a lot of money on my dad. I'm grateful. So, but our relationship, could we please keep it private? Especially from my senior. I don't want him to misunderstand. Her voice grew smaller. I don't want to owe you favors. Again with Jo Jingran. My anger flared up instantly. Misunderstand what? Misunderstand that you're my woman? Or misunderstand that you might be carrying my child soon? I let out a cold laugh. Can you be reasonable? I am being reasonable, she snapped, her temper rising. We're only in a contractual relationship. It's fake. Fake. I stood up, looking down at her. Suwon, touch your conscience and ask yourself, was it fake when I kissed you outside the hospital that night? Her face went ghostly white. The night in the apartment, almost, I advanced, step by step. Was that fake too? Stop talking! She jumped up, covering her ears, her eyes bloodshot. You bastard! I am a bastard! I admitted it. Using money to force you into signing that ridiculous contract when you were down. But Suwon, do you dare say you feel absolutely nothing for me? I grabbed her wrist, pulling her close. Since we were kids, who was the first to charge out when you were bullied? Who carried you to the hospital when you were sick? Who stayed with you, drunk out of your mind, when you had your heart broken? Mi Heqiang, 20 years. Suwon, you idiot. Can't you feel anything at all? I was practically yelling. Decades of suppressed emotion erupted like a volcano. Suwon was stunned, staring at me blankly, forgetting to react. Her eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. Looking at her like this, my fury gradually gave way to exhaustion. Perhaps she truly didn't know. Perhaps, in her heart, I really was just a bro. I laughed at myself, releasing her hand. Forget it. I turned to leave this suffocating space. A hand gently grabbed my wrist from behind. I stood with my back to her, frozen. Her voice came, trembling, choked with sobs. Heqiang, was what you said just now true? Do you like me? I didn't turn around. I was afraid that if I saw her tear-filled eyes, all my defenses would crumble. Yes, I heard myself say. One word, but it felt like it drained all my strength. Silence followed. Silence so prolonged I thought it was just another monologue of mine. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Her voice was muffled, thick with congestion. I gave a bitter laugh. Say what? Hey Suwon, I've liked you for 10 years. Stop treating me as just a bro? Then what? Get rejected, laugh it off with a just kidding, and continue being bros for life? I didn't dare gamble. I turned around, finally facing her. I was afraid that if I spoke, we wouldn't even be friends anymore. She stood there, tears spilling like broken beads falling silently. So the most oblivious one wasn't her. It was me. I thought she felt nothing, but she was just afraid to think, afraid to believe. Then why this way now? She choked out. Why use this method? Because I couldn't wait anymore. I walked over to her, reaching up to wipe the tears from her cheeks. Jo Jingran appeared. If I didn't make a move, you'd really be taken away. I couldn't wait another 10 years. My words were a key, unlocking all the locks in her heart. She looked at me, her eyes filled with heartache, guilt, and something bright and shiny that I had never seen before. He Chiang, you absolute blockhead, she said, then stood on her tiptoes, wrapped her arms around my neck, buried her face in my shoulder, and cried loudly. She cried like a child. I held her, feeling her warm tears soak my collar. My heart, suspended for 10 years, finally landed. Suwon, you were finally mine. We stayed like that, neither speaking, until her sobs quieted into small hiccups. Only then did I release her, cupping her tear-streaked face. Done crying? She nodded, her eyes swollen shut. Is the contract still valid? I teased deliberately. She paused, then a blush bloomed on her cheeks. She didn't speak, answering with action instead. She rose on her toes and kissed me again actively. This kiss was different from all the others. No hesitation, no resistance, only cautious exploration and gentle lingering response. I took control, cradling the back of her head, deepening the kiss. From the living room to the bedroom, the air filled with intimacy. When all pretenses and barriers were stripped away, only raw honesty and passion remained. I finally possessed the girl I had loved for 10 years, wholly and completely. At that moment, looking at her flushed cheeks and dazed eyes beneath me, I had only one thought. To hell with the contract. Suwon, in this life, the next life, and the life after that, don't even think about leaving me again. The next morning, I woke to the smell of food. Opening my eyes, the spot beside me was empty. Panic seized me. Shit, she didn't run away, did she? I threw off the covers, didn't bother with shoes, and ran out barefoot. Then I saw a sight I will never forget. Suwon was wearing my white shirt, her dark hair casually pinned back, tying an apron, cooking instant noodles in the kitchen. Yes, instant noodles, with 2 soft-boiled eggs and some greens. Sunlight streamed through the window, gilding her in gold. The picture was so beautiful, it looked like a painting. Hearing me, she turned. Seeing me standing there like an idiot, barefoot, she paused. Then her cheeks flushed slightly. She gave me a smile brighter than the sunlight. Awake? Go wash up. The noodles are going to get soggy. Her tone was so natural, as if we had lived this way for years. I stood rooted to the spot, looking at her. Suddenly I laughed. The unease and panic dissolved instantly, replaced by a fullness of happiness so profound it overflowed. I walked over and hugged her from behind, resting my chin on her shoulder, inhaling the scent of her hair. Suwon, I love you. Her body stiffened, then she elbowed me lightly. I know, it's gross. Go brush your teeth. Your breath stinks. Though she complained, I saw her ears turn bright red. That was the best bowl of instant noodles I had ever eaten in my life. After breakfast, we went to the hospital together. Sue's father was awake, looking much better. Seeing us walk in hand, he paused, then broke into a knowing smile. Wanwan, you silly girl, you finally came to your senses. Suwon's face turned crimson. Dad, what are you talking about? We stayed with him for a while. When Jo Jingran came for rounds and saw our intimate posture, his eyes dimmed. But maintaining his professional demeanor, he discussed Sue's father's condition with us. As he was leaving, I called out to him, Dr. Joe. He turned. I walked over to him, still holding Suwon's hand, and extended my other hand. Sorry for the offense earlier, and thank you for taking care of my father-in-law. Jo Jingran looked at me, then at Suwon beside me, who was calmly accepting it. Finally he smiled, a look of acceptance on his face. He shook my hand. You're welcome. Wish you both happiness. The silent war between the two men ended there. Leaving the hospital, I received a call from my mother. You little bastard, what's going on with you and Wanwan? Why did the Joe family boy post on social media congratulating you two? When did you get engaged? How come I didn't know? I looked at Suwon beside me. She was also looking at me, puzzled. I smiled into the phone. Mom, that was just practice. Now it's the real thing. Prepare the red envelopes. You're about to have a real daughter-in-law. Hanging up, Suwon pinched me. Who agreed to marry you? What? I raised an eyebrow, backing her into a corner. With a baby on the way. Who else are you planning to marry if not me? A baby? Who said there's a baby? Her cheeks were scarlet, pretending to be tough. I leaned down, whispering near her ear. Then let's go home and keep trying. Her face was red enough to bleed. With Jo Jingran dealt with and the approval of both families secured, my relationship with Suwon entered a honeymoon phase. The most important task was resolving her father's company debts. I didn't hide it from her anymore. I took her to my study, opened my laptop, and showed her everything I had prepared over the past months. Plans to acquire the company's bad assets, restructuring proposals for management, strategies for new product lines. Everything was meticulously arranged. Suwon stared at the professional documents on the screen, utterly stunned. Hee-Chiang, did you do all this? Otherwise? I hugged her from behind, resting my chin on top of her head. Did you think I gave you that million for nothing? I acquired your dad's company for 2 reasons. 1, to solve your troubles. 2, because I saw potential in his traditional craftsmanship. With new capital and management, it will recover quickly. I turned her to face me. Suwon, helping you isn't charity. We are equals. I'm investing. Investing in my wife and our future family. She looked at me, her eyes moist. She knew I said it this way to protect her fragile pride. The so-called investment was just another way of loving her. Thank you, Hee-Chiang, she whispered, standing on her toes to kiss my lips. The following days, we busied ourselves with the company's restructuring. I handled macro strategy and financing. She utilized her expertise, focusing on new product design. She was incredibly talented. Several new products she designed, blending traditional Chinese elements, were an instant market hit. The company's situation improved day by day. Sue's father recovered well and was able to walk again. Everything was heading in the best possible direction. That day, we concluded an important meeting, securing the first major order after the restructuring. All the employees were cheering. I looked at Su-Wan beside me, her eyes sparkling with confidence and joy, and my heart swelled with pride. This was my girl. She shouldn't be crushed by debt and hardship. She should be shining brilliantly under the sun. That evening, to celebrate, I booked a restaurant. We sat by the window, overlooking the city lights. He-Chiang, she swirled the red wine in her glass, speaking suddenly. That contract of ours. A sly smile played on her lips. Seems like it's not finished yet. I paused, realizing what she meant. I played along, raising an eyebrow. And what does Miss Sue suggest? She set down her glass, leaned forward, and whispered near my ear, her breath warm. Mr. He, I think we can seriously start executing Clause 1 about having a baby now. I looked into her starlit eyes, my Adam's apple bobbing. This woman was playing with fire. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her deeply. As you wish, my party-bee wife. 3 months later, Sue's father's company, under a new name and new leadership, was officially back on track, even thriving more than before the bankruptcy. Sue's father had fully recovered, retired to a consultant role, but was energetic every day seeing the company prosper. My relationship with Su-Wan was stable and deeply affectionate. The only imperfection was my mother, calling almost 3 times a day to nag about the progress of her grandchild. Today, Su-Wan walked out of the bathroom, her face pale. I rushed over anxiously. What's wrong? Feeling sick? She looked at me, her expression complex, then silently handed me something, a pregnancy test stick. 2 distinct red lines stared back at me. I stared at those 2 lines, my brain short-circuiting. I stood frozen for over 10 seconds before it hit me. I was going to be a dad. My voice shook. I'm going to be a dad? She nodded, her eyes glistening. The next second, I scooped her up and spun her around wildly in the living room. Ha 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 ha, I'm going to be a dad. Su-Wan, I'm going to be a dad. I laughed and cried like an idiot. She grew dizzy from the spinning, laughing as she pounded my back. Put me down, He-Chiang, you blockhead. I set her down carefully on the sofa, then dropped to one knee, holding her hand like a devout believer. Wan, marry me. I pulled a velvet box from my pocket. Inside was a ring I had designed myself. Not a massive diamond, but engraved with our initials and a tiny star. Su-Wan looked at the ring, tears falling. Didn't you already consider me your wife? It's different, I said seriously, looking into her eyes. Before, I forced you. Now, I want you to agree willingly. Miss Su-Wan, do you agree to marry Mr. He-Chiang, becoming his one and only legal wife, the mother of his future children, and the heroine of his life? This life, the next life, and the life after that? She cried and laughed at the same time. I do. She extended her hand. I trembled as I slid the ring onto her finger. The fit was perfect. 3 months later, we held a grand wedding. During the reception, my absurd childbirth contract was told as a joke, and the guests roared with laughter. Only I knew that contract was the most correct and bravest decision I had ever made. It was the key that unlocked the door between us that had stayed shut for 10 years. After the wedding, I carried Su-Wan, her belly slightly rounded, back to our room. She leaned against me, stroking her stomach, radiating happiness. He-Chiang, what do you think we should name the baby? I thought for a moment, then leaned down to kiss her forehead. Let's call him Neon, as in 10 years of longing. Su-Wan, I longed for you for 10 years. For the rest of our lives, it's your turn to long for me. The end.